Donald Trump has announced 25% tariffs on imported cars that will be effective from 2nd of April. So brace yourself for more taxes, and these levies mark an escalation in Donald Trump's trade war against top U.S. trading partners and allies. It includes Mexico, Canada being among the biggest automotive suppliers to the U.S. President Trump said the measure would lead to tremendous growth for the domestic American industry. He's promised that it would spur jobs, it would bring in investments. But the fact is that these duties would prompt companies to manufacture in the U.S. is only part of the premise. The fact is that it will also increase costs because the suppliers will have to factor in those additional levies. What happens then? Is it going to be the customer who will pay in the end, the American customer, or will there be more back and forth, or will there be a greater trade war? Nobody has answers to that because things are only escalating. But European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen described the move as bad for businesses and, well, worse for consumers. Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney labelled it a direct attack on Canadian workers. Remember, it's also something that violates the trade pacts that America has signed with Canada, with South Korea, and with several others. Tesla CEO Elon Musk also said that the impact of these tariffs will be felt by his company, Tesla, and it will not be an insignificant amount. So how does this impact auto industry around the world? How does this impact India? I'm going to talk more on that, but first I want to play out these important sound bites for you.
But this is very exciting to me. This is the automobile industry, and this will continue to spur growth like you haven't seen. Before I was elected, we were losing all of our plants that were being built in Mexico and Canada and other places. Now those plants largely have stopped, and they're moving them to our country.
President Trump announced 25% tariffs against our auto industry. And this is a direct attack, to be clear, a direct attack on the very workers that I stood in front of, uniform workers I stood in front of this morning at the Ambassador Bridge.
All right, it's a power-packed panel that will be joining me today to talk about the tariffs and their impact. But first, I want to put forth those big questions that we always ask, which is, and let's play them out for our viewers to know what all is at stake here. So the first question that I'm going to be asking is, who will face the brunt of Donald Trump's latest levies? Who really is it going to come back to bite the most? Secondly, will India retaliate against these tariffs? Remember, the trade tariffs are never a one-way street, so will we also be retaliating against it? Trump loyalist Musk's Tesla is also hurt by these levies. So what's the kind of impact that Tesla will have to brace itself for? Next, will these tariffs strain the ties that America has with its allies? Japan, South Korea, all are very large players in the automotive global supply chain. Will it impact their relationships? And will stock markets now recover from the tariff impact? They've braced and sort of cushioned some of it, but is there more bloodbath likely to happen because of that? Let's get into Tutu Dhawan from the auto industry, Professor Santosh Mehrotra, as well as Prateek Bansal to understand the stakes and how much can happen from here on. I want to start with Professor Mehrotra. A quick request from all of you, please. We need to keep the answers short so that we can cover as much ground as possible. Professor Mehrotra, let me start with you. As things stand right now, Donald Trump has come good on his tariff threats, one may say. And 25% is a very large number simply because the base auto rate in the US is 2.5%. So look at the rate hikes that he's talking about. What do you expect the impact of this could be?
The impact will be very significant. The US is the world's largest car importer and consumer. And you know that society is actually so heavily dependent upon automobiles. It's not a very railways dependent society, which is tragic for climate change, which we are all paying the price of that. Never mind that, the fact of the matter is that the short term and medium term impact on the consumer and the economy in the US is going to be very adverse. It's going to drive up inflation rates generally and drive up the price of cars. As far as India is concerned, we don't export any cars to them. We are an exporter of auto parts, but we are not even the biggest exporter of auto parts to them. The imports of auto parts come to about $197 billion, but those are led by Mexico, Canada, and China. That's according to the Commerce Department. So the immediate impacts will be US inflation will be up, car prices already at a time of US inflation being high for the last several years is going to be problematic for the consumers. And finally, the American economy is going to continue to pay, and within 3 years, Mr. Trump will be on his way out.
Okay.
Because he will
So
have to
I'm not going to be most bothered about American consumer. I'm going to be first bothered about the Indian industry, because that's what I want to focus on. And Mr. Dhawan, let me ask you this, that the auto component industry in India does supply to the global auto hubs, whether it's South Korea, whether it's China and several others. How much do you think will be the impact there?
Well, when you are talking of having competition with the other countries also supplying accessories and parts, then obviously there is going to be a lot of impact on our Indian manufacturers who would be exporting these parts. Although when you are talking of such heavy tariffs regarding Mr. Trump, we are not importing any cars from US that we should be bothered about that. But our main concern is that the industry which is supplying parts and bits, they should not get, anyway, they should not be let down.
Okay, Mr. Bansal, I want to understand from you that every second sentence coming out of any of these countries that are impacted by these tariff hikes is that, it violates WTO, it is against the pacts that we've signed with the US in the past, and so on and so forth. What's the value of these agreements? And is there any possible policy recourse? I won't use the word legal recourse, but any policy recourse that any of these countries have, besides, of course, launching trade wars on their end?
So, Gaurie, we really don't have any sort of, policy recourse as such. I mean, all these agreements were executed in good faith on the basis to sort of promote the trade between both the countries. Apart from this tit for tat situation wherein, we have been seeing that a tariff will also be reciprocated by another tariff by other countries, Canada, Mexico, India, whatever. So, I doubt that you can take any legal or a policy recourse as such, challenging these kind of, tariffs, which
not even at the WTO? Not even at the WTO or any other place?
You can file a complaint, but ultimately they are well within their rights to impose these kind of duties. And let me just give you an example. If you see in this budget, the India, after Mr. PM met Mr. Trump in the US, India slashed the customs duty on the luxury, on the
Harley
import
Davidson.
of luxury cars and Harley, and as well as luxury cars which are above $40,000, and significantly. I mean, for as far as motorcycles are concerned, I think they slashed from 50 to 40%, and for cars it was slashed from 125% to 70%. So it is well within their prerogative to sort of protect their domestic market by way of sort of increasing these kind of duties, to put these kind of trade barriers. There are many other measures, in fact, if you see, India is adopting to protect the domestic industry. I mean, we all must have heard about quality control orders, which, our Commerce Department has brought in. So,
so these trade pacts are not worth the paper that they are signed on, unfortunately. And the leaders can keep saying what they want. But as things stand, there's a 25% tariff and nobody knows what's next in terms of the ongoing tariff war.